This visual was inspired by the iPhone weather app, so I decided to recreate something similar in Tableau. I've built gradient area and gradient line charts in other videos, so I just joined them together and I really like how they blend. For this example, I'll build the visual for a daily order trend, starting with the structure of a gradient area chart. I'll create a calculated field that normalizes the date. And to save time, I'm just going to copy this one formula and paste it in, but I also have this in the description. This formula is taking all of the order dates and putting them on a scale from 0 to 1. That way we can space everything out evenly. Now I just need to duplicate that formula and edit it for the normalized metric. Everywhere this formula uses the order date field, I'm going to swap it out with the field that I want to aggregate, which is the order ID. And everywhere it uses the minimum, I'm going to replace it with my aggregation, which is the count distinct. So instead of scaling dates, this formula is doing the same thing but with the number of orders, putting all the distinct order counts on a scale from 0 to 1. And the last calculated field I need is the reverse metric. This is just 1 minus the normalized metric. And you'll see how this field just lets us cover up the part that we don't want to be gradient. For the structure, I'll start by moving norm date into the columns. Then I'll move the normalized metric into the rows and the reverse metric. But we haven't yet defined the level of detail yet. To do this, I'll drag the order date field into the marks. And since I want to show the trend over a day, I'm going to set the time frame to hours. Then I'll right-click on the norm date and make this compute using the hours. And I'll do the same thing for the norm metric and the reverse metric. And this makes the calculation use the hour time frame so we can see the number of orders at each hour. This first mark is going to be for our line, and the second mark will be for the area. Then I'll right-click on reverse metric so I can make this a dual axis. And once I remove the measure name coloring, we can see the area and line chart. I'll edit the axis for norm metric, which is our line chart, and I'll give this a fixed range between 0 and 1.05. Then I'll edit the reverse metric, which is for our area chart, and I'll give this a fixed range between negative 0.05 and 1. Then I'll click the check mark for reversing it. To make the part below the line gradient, I'll go to the Map tab at the top. Then I'll choose Background Images and my data source. I'll add an image I created in Canva, which is a gradient background. And I want the X field to be norm date with a range between 0 and 1, and the Y field to be the norm metric with the same range of 0 to 1. And that's going to add the background image behind the area and line chart. To remove the gradients for the part above the line, I'll use the area chart. I just need to change the color to white to match the background, and make the opacity 100%. And the lines look a little bit weird right now, and that's because they're behind. So I'll right-click on the norm metric and move the mark to the front. To make the line chart the same gradients as the area chart, I just need to move norm metric into the line mark as a color. Then I can use the legend to edit the colors. And I'll use this custom color palette that I loaded in here. But I have another video on how to load all types of color palettes. So now they match, but there's this weird line between the area and line chart. To remove it, I just need to go to the line mark and under color, remove the halo effect. Say I want to stretch this visual out to make it wider. You can see that dragging it doesn't work. And that's because I need to adjust the settings within the background mapping to let it resize properly. Under option, I need to uncheck locking the aspect ratio. And I'm also going to turn up the washout a bit so the line stands out against the area chart. And now we can drag the visual to resize it to any dimension. I'll also edit the axis and set it from 0 to 1 to match the normalized date. That way it starts and ends exactly where the visual does. And for formatting, I'll start by removing all the headers. Then I'll format the worksheet so I can remove the row and column dividers. And for the lines, I need to remove the 0 lines. I'll also add order date to the filters so I can look at just one day. And for now, I'm just going to pick a random date. But right now, the tooltip for this visual isn't very informative. So I'm going to customize this tooltip so it matches that iPhone weather app. I'll drag a couple metrics to the marks, like the order value and the item count. Then I'll use tooltip within the all marks to customize it. And I'll start by removing all the ones that I don't need and the headers. Then I'll format this to match the style of the weather app. So I want to make that middle metric really stand out. Then I'll add some context, like a $sign and the quantity header. But you can see the date here doesn't really make sense. So I'll right-click on the date field to format it. And within the pane, I want to change the date format to be 12-hour. So now this tooltip tells us the order value and the quantity for every hour. Now on a dashboard, I'll add this worksheet. and there's a few design tweaks I want to make. I don't want users to play around and accidentally mess up this visual, so I'll remove the map functionality by going to the Map tab at the top and choosing Map Options. That way I can uncheck all the functionality. And it may not be super obvious here, but there's a little line at the top of this chart. And once I publish to the server, this line may become more apparent. So I'm going to fix this by tweaking the axis for the reverse metric. And I'll give it a fixed start at -0.03, which tightens the axis range. The white area chart removes the gradients above the line, but I wasn't reaching far enough, so a bit of the background showed at the top. But by editing the axis, we're extending it further so it's completely covered. Now you can see the trend of daily orders, but not the start or end time. So I'm going to add an axis with the hours to give that context. And this is super simple. I just need to move my order date time field into the columns. Then I'll right click and I'll choose the time frame of hours. On the worksheet that has the visual, I'll link the date filter so that the axis is pulling from the same day as the chart. And to make those lines disappear, I just need to go to color in the marks and decrease the opacity to 0%. And that'll make them invisible. Then I'll edit the axis so I can remove the title. And on the dashboard, I'll add the axis worksheet underneath the visual. But I can't just match this to the width of the visuals worksheet, because you can see the axis and the chart aren't perfectly aligned by hour. So I'm extending the axis so it matches the hours in the visual. I'll also set this to fill the entire view for better alignment. And then I'll format the axis to remove the shading of the worksheet. And under lines, I'll remove the axis rulers and the axis ticks. That way we're left with a clean axis that looks like it's part of the visual. Right now it's only showing one date controlled by a static filter, but I want users to be able to choose a date directly on the dashboard. So I'll add that option in the blank space up here. On the worksheet, I'll create a parameter that lets users pick a date. I'll set the data type to date and keep that current value. And since we want to set the order date to the date in that parameter, I'm going to move order date into the filters. And I'll choose to filter on the individual dates. Then I'll use a condition, and I'll do this by formula. I'll do the date of the order date equals the pick a date parameter. So now this parameter controls the filtering on this visual. And because I have another worksheet using this date filter, I'll apply the parameter filter there as well. And I'll remove the old date filter from that worksheet. Now on the dashboard, when I click on the visual, I can go to parameters and choose my pick a date parameter. And I'll hide the title so users can only see the date box. This parameter works well for letting users pick a date for the visual. I didn't match every detail of the weather app, but I really like how it turned out. By combining a gradient area with a gradient line, you get a smooth modern visual that works great for daily order trends or any time-based data.